All right, here we have a brand new Craftsman riding lawnmower. And when I say brand new, I mean it still has the little things on the tire. See, there's no grass buildup under there. Just to show you that it's pretty much a brand new mower. Now, what it's doing is what a lot of these Briggs and Stratton are doing. I'll show you. Let's try to start it, right? See? Now, this thing has a brand new battery in it. The starter motor was replaced by the owner, and it's still doing this. So basically, what they're telling me is not releasing the compression. So a trick to get them started is find where the compression is and turn the engine back, like spin it backwards. Remove the air filter. And of course, it's cold, so put the choke on. And let me put the camera down. Basically, I'm going to take the palm of my hand and I'm going to cover the intake. So that's going to act like a decompression lever. Because if it can't suck in air, there's nothing to compress. So the engine's going to spin up when I turn the key. I'm going to let it spin up a bit, then move my hand, and it's going to start. As long as the decompression is the only issue. Let me see where I can put this. I should have figured this out before I started, shouldn't I? There we go, that'll work. All right, I'm gonna put my hand over the intake, spin the engine up, and then move my hand, and it should start. All right, first I'm gonna do it without my hand, just to show you what it's doing. Spin it back. Put the choke on, hand over the intake, block the air. And there you have it. It starts like nothing's wrong with it, and it'll cut. You could go and drive it, cut, do whatever you need to do. But when you turn it off, and you try to restart it, it won't restart unless you put your hand over the intake again. So let me turn it off. All right. So basically, what's that telling me is the decompression, the little decompression cam thing on the camshaft is broken or bent or something's up with it. Before you tear into the engine, the first thing you do is check the valve lash. All right, make sure it's within spec. What I do, especially on older engines, is I don't even care what the spec says. I'll turn it until the rocker is making contact with the top of the valve, and come off just a touch, just enough so I can shake the valve, and then I'll tighten the screw back down. And if that doesn't do it, if it's still tight like that, 9 times out of 10, you got to tear into the engine and replace the camshaft, because the decompression thing is built into the camshaft. I already checked the valve lash in this. It's nice and it's not loose. There's no excess play. So again, it's a brand new mower, and it didn't really do anything. So that's telling me that the camshaft needs to be replaced. So what we're gonna do is first we gotta remove the engine. To remove the engine, all your fuel line, your electrical, just disconnect everything. Anything that's connected to the engine, the cable, see it right there, the throttle cable, which is throttle and choke in one. Disconnect it. Disconnect everything dealing with the engine. We're gonna pull the exhaust. We're going to, this is a hydrostatic drive, so we're gonna find where the tensioner is for the drive belt. We're gonna loosen that and remove it. I might go ahead and drop the deck to make it easier. All right, so basically, and once you do that, there should be 4 bolts. See, one's there, one's right there, and there's one under there, because see, it's right behind the filter. You probably can't see it. And the other one's right there. Those are the bolts that hold the engine onto the frame. Once you pull those 4 bolts out, you got to remove the pulley. There's 1 bolt on there to drop the pulley. Once you take the belts off, and the engine should lift up. Once you get the engine lifted up, we're going to crack the case. See that line right there? Once the engine's off, you'll see the bolts holding that on. That's where you crack the engine open. You're gonna need a new gasket. Use a gasket, don't use silicone. The problem with just using silicone is there's a tolerance there that the gaskets usually is almost always correct for the end play. All right, so my suggestion, use a gasket. So let's get the engine off. All right, this is the bottom. With the hydrostatic, once and on the manuals, once you push in the brakes or the brake/clutch and you lock it down or apply the parking brake, you get a lot of play in the drive belt. See, that's ready to come off. You loosen the pulley, already started. You can use hand tools, you don't need air tools. Loosen the bolt holding the pulley on, see it's sliding off already, and that'll come off. What a lot of people don't know, a lot of these, I guess, are residential lawnmowers. The rear transaxle it's made of plastic. It's not even made of aluminum. And this is for the lower grade residential one. See that Husqvarna right there? That's a residential mower, but this is a little bit higher grade, and the transaxle is actually made of aluminum. I don't know if you can see it under there. See, they're both hydrostatic, and believe it or not, if you look at like the switch there, where the seat bolts on, the cup holders, and the provisions for the sunshade, they're identical. They're identical. The deck's identical. Well, when I say the deck, I mean where you sit and put your feet. Identical. I think it's MTD that bought out a whole bunch of them, but it's one parent company with one big umbrella with all the other companies under that umbrella. So if you were a brand specific person, I hate to tell you, but they're basically all the same now. Like the back of this one is identical to the back of that one as far as this, except the lockout for the drive is on this side on that one. But even the rocker for the doggone hydrostatic drive, let me see if that's the same number. My mind will be blown right now. Okay, it's not the same number. But other than that, like I said, they're almost the exact same as far as the chassis go. Of course, the one over there is has a little bit more reinforcements. I can see it on there. But yep, let's get back on topic. Yeah, I can't stand those. These plastic rears are known for blowing the seals out. As a matter of fact, if you look at that one, see the oil or the grease right there? Yeah, they're known for blowing the seals out. So let's continue. All right, here we go. The engine is unbolted. The exhaust, I guess you call it a header, where the pipe is disconnected. Starter disconnected. Of course, before you mess with any wiring, disconnect your negative battery terminal. unplug the harness. It's simple. This one harness right here, the positive for the starting motor, disconnect the fuel line. I keep a bunch of these valves in my little supply, so I just stuck one in there with it in the off position. It's not a bad idea to add one of these to your mower, whether it's a push motor, mower, riding mower, whatever. That way when you're putting it down for the season, start it, turn the valve off, and let it burn all the fuel out of the carburetor. So now the last thing I gotta disconnect, well actually I gotta take this thing off. 2 bolts, one there and one there. And this vent, okay, that's a vent. The vent, this thing, and this. Before I remove these, what I like to do is, as long as it's running properly as far as the throttle and choke, I like to make some marks with a Sharpie or anything. Just make some marks right there. That'll get me back in the ballpark as far as where I need to have it. Excuse me. See? So I'm gonna disconnect that. Just pull this off. See the engine's moving. It's already loose. And just like that, the engine's off. They're really easy to take off. This just took me a few minutes, even while trying to film it. Just a few minutes, and it pops off. That engine, that John Deere in 19.5, that was single cylinder. That one has the exact same issue as that one, but that engine has years on it. The cam failure, the decompression thing, it can happen as soon as you buy the mower, take it home, use it one time. It might never start again without doing that intake trick. Or you could have the thing for years, multiple seasons, runs like brand new, then one day you use it, shut it down, and then it started doing it. But that engine, that single cylinder 19.5, was actually the motor on this. And when it started doing it, I had a V-twin Briggs and Stratton laying around. So I just went ahead and just popped that one in. That's the V-twin that I put in here. And they'll fit, because a lot of these mowers, it's the exact same mower. They'll just put a bigger engine and a larger number on the side, maybe a slightly bigger deck. Or instead of 2 blades, you get 3 blades. But they look like they won't fit, but it fits. But again, I just popped this one in, and I don't even use all the wires. The wires that plugged in, I plugged them in, and that's it. Charges the battery, does what it needs to do. But with this mower in here, with this larger motor, you can cut faster, and you can cut thicker grass with this machine that it couldn't do in the past. But I just wanted to show you that, just to show you that most of the engines are interchangeable. Whether it's a Cowell or Briggs and Stratton, it makes no difference. They'll bolt right on and plug the wires in and keep it moving. Now I'm gonna take this. I put a little bench in there, a little work table. So I'm gonna take the engine in there and drain the oil. Actually, I'm gonna drain the oil here. Then I'll take the engine in there and crack it open. And all I'm doing to crack it open is hitting it with the hammer. Just make sure all the bolts are out. And just lightly tap it, and it should start coming apart. And that's it. It's opening up. Oh, that's a lot of oil. That's what I get. I can see some metal shavings in the I got some key later I put down in the oil. All right, that's. Yeah. I'm shocked that that was still working, to be honest with you. But this is the part right here. See, it fell off. This is supposed to be on the camshaft. This thing right here is like a flyweight. It's supposed to be on the camshaft, but it fell off. It was sitting right there. This is what usually happens. Some they'll break, bend, or just fall off like this one did. Yeah, that's the little thing. I got a spare one in there, the little shaft for the oil pump, because this actually has an oil pump. See, you got the screen right there, and the filter, of course, and the oil pump is actually behind here. If you take these 3 screws out, you'll see the oil pump. It's actually a pressurized system. So, yep, there's pieces of it in there. Let me see if I can pull it out. See? Can you see that? Put that right there for now. Alright, let's clean it up and see what we can salvage and see what needs to be replaced. Trying to get this glove off so I can show you the inside of the engine. You see that hole right there? That hole? That's where the flyweight was supposed to be. That thing right there. That's basically that's your decompression lever thing. It's actually on the inside, on the other side. What I did, I removed the spark plug to make it easier to line up the timing marks. See those 2 little dimples? There's one in the crank and one in the camshaft gear. One in the crank gear and one in the cam gear. So you just line those up, and then when you put the new cam in, you just make sure it's lined up. That way it's timed properly. When you purchase a new cam, odds are it's going to come with new lifters. See the lifters back there? So if you're already this far into the engine, as long as it comes with the right size ones, might as well just pop some new ones in there, because you already got it open up. And make sure you clean the old gasket material off. The camshaft, of course, just pulls out, and when you pull it out, be prepared, because the lifters are going to fall out, and when the lifters fall out, of course, the push rod's going to drop down. That is the camshaft right there. You see on this, that hole right there, it's missing something, and I'll show you what it's missing. It's missing that thing right there that is supposed to be in there. This thing that causes it to it causes one of the valve, I think it's the intake, to stay open a little bit while you're cranking it, to ease some of the compression. Alright, I got a Briggs camshaft here. Alright, these are lifters and the drive for the oil pump. This is a new gasket. Hopefully it's the right one. This is the camshaft. Alright. Alright, see, 579, 579. And if you look, you see this thing right here? That's the flyweight that causes the decompression. and on this one it's missing. So I was right. And the material looks almost identical. Of course, this one looks a little bit more polished because it was running. I'm hoping it's a different or stronger design, or else it's just going to happen again eventually. I've read about people, as soon as they replace this thing, they start it up, it starts up great, they cut the grass, park it, same thing happens again. So I'm really hoping that this one stands up. Anywho, let's get it in. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your lifters, you're gonna push your push rods back up, slide your lifters in, and push your camshaft in. You could use heavy grease to help keep these up, or you could just flip the engine over. That way they don't drop down. And that's what I should have done, to be honest with you. I should have had the engine laying that way. As a matter of fact, I think I'm gonna flip it over that way. All right, I'm about to drop the cam in, but I wanted to show you how the decompression works. All right, see, the spring keeps it in, right? Keeps it down. When the engine starts, this weight actually flies out. It spins. All right, that goes that way. This way, it goes that way, right? Let's make sure. Right, that goes that way. That goes that way. Right? When the engine starts, of course, the speed picks up. This stays out. If you look right there, see that how it sticks up? That's low speed when you're cranking the engine. When the speed picks up, that goes in and it's flat. See, it's flat now. Decompression, running. Decompression, running. So that's how that works. It basically changes the cam profile to let the compression go out the intake. All right, the new lifters are in, the new camshaft is in, and that's the governor assembly. It just slides on there. You get the gears to mesh. That slides on there, you get the gears to mesh. And you're gonna have to take off the valve cover to make sure the push rods are where they're supposed to be. And since you got a new cam, of course you wanna check your valve clearances. This just is loosely on there. The ends, it's held in place by this. When you put it on, see, let me see if I can put this down somewhere. Trying to get it close, but I don't want to put it where it's gonna get dirty because I just spent a lot of time cleaning it. All right, this space right here, there and there, the ends right there, that's why it's curved. It slides right in there, and that's what keeps it in place. And make sure you put in the drive for the oil pump, that little thing. It keys in there and in there, okay? That one, that's the old one, that's the new one. To get the little shaft for the oil pump lined up, remove the little cover, and that way you could spin this as needed until it keys in, and then you just put the cover back on. There's no gasket, it actually uses an O-ring right there. And this is the brand new gasket for the side cover that I'm about to put on. I'm not using any silicone on it, just putting the gasket on. It has dowels on the engine side, so the dowels will hold it in place. All right, the side plate is back on, torqued down. The oil pump cover is back on. Brand new camshaft to fix the decompression lever issue. Brand new lifters, brand new oil pump drive shaft. I set both valves to 0.005. So you got a nice bit of play right there. 0.005 should do it. It won't burn the valves. I'm gonna leave the spark plug out. I'm gonna mount the engine, bolt it down. I'm not gonna put the pulley back on yet. I'm gonna hook up all the wiring, hook up the fuel. I'm gonna put some oil in it, crank it over a few times before I put the spark plug in, just to get some oil pressure in it. And then I'll put the plug back in and try to fire it up. All right, I reconnected the battery. I only put in 2 bolts holding the engine down. I put the filter back on, the exhaust pipe, hooked up the wiring, hooked up the fuel. I cranked it over a little bit with the plug out just to get oil in the engine. Like I said, I set the valves, both of them at 0.005. That usually works good for small engines. I don't like that, I might cut it. Hope it doesn't fall apart. All right, remember, it wasn't cranking over with the key. You had to spin it back and put your hand over the intake because the decompression lever was broken. So let's see. Just having the engine completely apart, replacing those. I would say that's a win. Let's shut it off and see what happens. All right, let me get another. Yeah, I expect that because it was oil on the exhaust. So let's try it again. All right, I would say we're good. Then when you turn the key off and you hear that, that's the decompression lever letting the compression go into this, into the intake. So we know that's working. Let me show you what I found. Basically, what had happened was this actually broke. See, right? I'm sorry, I'm trying. The light isn't the best, and trying to focus on small things suck. Come on, man. There we go, right there. See how that was rough? That broke off. Excuse me. From this. This is gonna suck even more trying to get that to focus. Right there, see? So basically, it was supposed to be like this. Like that. See? And that went in there. Like that. And it pivoted on this thing. And that broke off. But that's your decompression right there. Even some of the pull start mowers, the ones with the overhead valves, those are the ones that mainly have this. The old L heads with the valves in the cylinder, I mean in the block, those don't have this, so you don't have to worry about that going bad. That's why those things seem to run forever. But on this right here, I don't want to say it's a poor design, but I think they should have let it come through this thing full circle with grooves on it, like how the cam lobes are, because these are just pressed on. This should have come through full circle, the full thing, with grooves on it, to catch that, and then grind it down to the flat on one side. See how it's flat on one side? Like that. Let it come through this full circle, because right now it's only that half right there. So all the weight is carried on that little half moon type thing right there. And that's why they break. But I'm gonna go ahead and put the rest of the bolts in to hold the engine down. Put the cowl back on. Put the side covers back on. Put the pulley back on. Put the drive belt back on. Bolt the fuel tank back down. Put the deck back in. The deck drive belt back on. And then I'll run out here and see how it cuts. Oh, and put the hood back on.